focus on Liberia. Hit it. From Cape Mount to Cape Palmer, mountain back to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Boakai, to educate, elevate, and promote. Talk about home affairs, in diaspora, foreign affairs, reliable information, history, talking about culture, politics, education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to yet another edition of Between the Headlines on Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jai, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. Tonight, we're going to be looking at day 2 of the Joseph Newman Boakai Presidency and what actually did President Weah leave behind. That's the topic tonight. We're going to be looking at that, what happened today, or what should have happened. So invite a friend, invite somebody to come and watch the show with you, share the show, and we're going to be right back as we listen to Elder Matthew Zioga in this piece.
I don't get even more about it. I try to do more. Yeah, oh, the general can you over. The boy will so, oh, yeah, the boy will have to mark. Our holding you from our grandma. But I can you, yeah, for waiting to me. The way you watch on the home, the who are with your man. The general you go, that's the one man is a day.
That was Elder Matthew Zioga from Monrovia. Well, tonight we're going to be looking at day 2 of the Joseph Newman Boakai Presidency and what President Weah left behind. Joining me is our man from the FOL Marketplace. He knows about business, finance, and economics, Mr. Gabriel M. Tabuto Carter. Gabriel, welcome to the show.
That is good to be here. Good to be back.
Let me welcome Mr. J. Victor Nambi. Mr. Nambi is a former UPP partisan who switched over to the CPP, although he refuses to acknowledge that. He always says that he's still CPP. But long story short, welcome, Mr. Nambi.
Thank you, Dennis. And I wish to confirm I am still a member of the UPP. I
No,
supported the CPP's bid for the presidency, but I'm back to base. Thank you. It's good to be here.
that was just an experiment, right? We
Yeah.
want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. We are still Aliu Samba Kamara is having some issues joining, and so Mr. Kamara, welcome. Today, day two of the Boakai Presidency. Let me start with Victor. Let's give our, and we're talking about day two. Day one is gone. Victor, just your general impression about day two.
Thank you, Dennis. I think we can characterize day two as a day for somber reflection on what happened yesterday. I really believe that uh, Ambassador Boakai is a very, very competent man who prides himself on integrity and perfection. But I can say that the day got off yesterday to a great start. I think there were lots of problems. I believe some of those may have been out of their control, but there were some of those that I believe they could have also controlled. And so I would say today, I believe was a quiet day for everyone to take a step back, reflect, and recharge and get ready to search forward. That's how I will characterize day two.
Thank you. Gabriel, your general sense of day two.
I think Mr. Nangwe gave a good summary. I think if I were, Ambassador Boykai, I will, yeah, do a deep reflection from the previous snafu that happened on the first day, and just pretty much get an inventory of, what needs to happen. Start getting, I think from what we've seen so far, he hasn't really appointed any more cabinet members. So if I were him, those would be the priorities that I'll be looking forward to get to prioritizing on day two, and pretty much getting the ball rolling, because he has a lot of work ahead of him.
A lot of work ahead of him, and this is day two. So today, what was reported in the news, the U.S. delegation, that's the delegation from the United States that went for the inauguration. They met with the president today, and so far, and we don't have any new appointments today. Oh, Gabriel, you know, people are little still, expecting and waiting. Are we rushing the president to get things done so quickly, or that is within, it, or we have, or is the expectation that things move a little faster? Is it justified? Or
Are you saying, are we managing our expectation, or
yeah,
are
why
we?
why are you not managing your expectation?
To be honest with you, I think the urgency on the from the citizen is justified. Because given the last 6 years, there's a lot that has happened, or lack thereof. From economy wise, and supposedly there's supposed to be a new beacon of hope. So you come in with that expectation. I think from, yes, you had mistakes on the first day. That's okay. Mistakes happen. But I think on the second day, you're supposed to really shifting into the fifth gear and start, as I said earlier, start picking your cabinet members. Yes, I understand you're meeting with the delegate from the US. Now we can assume that that delegation has a lot to do with some of his policy that he want to take on. Maybe some of the things we will talk about. There's a massive debt, right, that he has to deal with. Um, there's also right now the consolidated account doesn't seem like it has a lot in it. So the question becomes for him, I think, on his second date is, where do I start? There's civil servant that needs to get paid, or even if you're able to pay them for this month, which is January, where do you get the money for next month and moving forward? So there's a lot at hand that he needs to focus on, especially on his second day. That I think he needs to first set his priorities. What comes first, and how do I shift those things into priority moving forward? Yeah.
Thank you. Victor today was meeting people. We have delegations. I think 2 or 3 groups that he met today. That for inheriting a country like Liberia, at this time from President Weah, that's pretty good to start. At that pace, like reflecting and slow things down. Make sure you are recalibrating, as he said in his speech.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to agree with Gabriel, you and you as well. I think the people are really anxious to turn the page. I think there is the hangover from the last 6 years. I think people are really anxious to get rid of that, and so if you see the anxiety and the impatience, I would think
Yeah.
that is what is being reflected in the people. As for today, I really agree also that you could see there was a stark difference between yesterday and today. The president met with the president of Ghana, I believe, and maybe some other people. But the spirit was subdued. He seemed deflated. He was meeting a foreign president, the man's in suit, and obviously because of the incident, I believe, from the inauguration, he may have been exhausted, and they were trying to get ahead of kind of step on that news and put in something positive, and so they made him to meet with the Ghanaian president. But it just didn't look good. He wasn't dressed for the occasion. He was dressed like grandpa going to throw a catch ball with his grandkids on the lawn or something like that. And yeah, it didn't look good. But today he looked exuberant. He looked vibrant. He looked presidential. And I was very, very heartened by what I saw today. He looked very energetic. He looked presidential. He looked ready. And also, I think the signal should not be missed as to the meeting of the U.S. Delegation first. We all know the U.S. is our number one international partner, and so I think the arrangement of the priority of who he's going to be meeting going forward, I think it had to be established that we're meeting the first and more equals. So I think they are getting back on track. I think pretty soon, I think this president and the team are going to master statecraft, and I think they will begin to deliver results.
Deliver results,
Yeah.
yes. Oh,
I mean, I would have hoped for a little re-out on that meeting today. Maybe that is coming out later on. But a little one paragraph summary, or maybe it was just an initial meet and greet. Maybe something more substantive is going to follow later on, hopefully. I checked the executive management website today. I didn't see anything at all. Only, and I think they have to get out of the habit of spoon TV, being their publicity, mouthpiece. This is the government.
Yeah.
Everything I saw today, I pretty much saw it through, the Spoon TV website. Nothing against the Spoon TV, but they are not the government. I think the executive management should have had something today. I hope that that is going to happen going forward.
Absolutely agree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 and there are some things in his speech yesterday, like but let me focus on something else that also we're expecting today, some more names, right? But instead, what came up is people talking about credentials. Does that signal to you what the rumors that there is a lot of infighting? Because if people within or who support President or the Unity Party to victory, if they start to kind of get on each other for credentials, what does that tell you,
Do you want me to
Victor?
go or Gabriel?
Yeah, you can go.
Yeah, obviously, Dennis, I think this is it has all the signs of an infight going on. The Miss Beslow, I know her personally. We went to the same school. I was in Monrovia last year. We sat down. We had, our usual cardinal outing. She's a very accomplished person. She worked in the UN for a very long time. She held very high profile positions. I think she was country director for several countries, including South Sudan, I believe Nepal. I believe she rose to the rank of assistant UN Secretary General before she resigned. I understand she has a master's degree. Now, it is puzzling though that even without her being nominated yet, her name was outed the way it was. One has to wonder. I mean, there are five names that were appointed yesterday. Nothing has been said. I mean, we will assume then that those five people, their credentials, everything is correct. But why are we talking about someone who hasn't even been nominated yet? So
Exactly.
I think this is, it doesn't pass the smell test of infighting. I believe. I mean, Martin Colley, I think he has and his team, they have garnered for themselves very very high reputation. But I think this time I'm not quite certain what purpose is being served here to out
Exactly.
someone who hasn't even been nominated yet.
Yeah.
If the person is nominated and they begin to float their credential, yes, then you can go in the file and begin to take it apart. But that hasn't happened. So I read a question the sincerity. Yes, it is good that the watchdog group should be out there and be ready. But I just think this attack is too premature.
Gabriel, I read from Madame Sarah Beslo Yanti Facebook page. She said, I have read the post and heard the lies and disinformation being spewed. When I'm given the chance to serve the people of Liberia as I have served other positions, I will be prepared to defend my record and my legitimate and hard-earned credentials before the Senate.
Correct.
I really think that, I mean, this was Madame Beslo Yanti was being celebrated. People were saying she should be go for president. Most people I heard ask presidential candidate to go after her as vice president.
Yeah.
Until today, this was
Yeah.
shocking to me, and to see people who are in support of President Boakai coming out and say, "Hey, she has this problem."
You see, and I think Mr. Nagbe actually pointed out, stated that clearly. I think we're out of the campaign mode. We need to get out of campaign mode. And I say this because the role that uh, Martin Colley was appointed for was to, be an attack. You say anything against the president, he will come against.
You think he
Like,
was appointed or was
I
self?
don't know if he was appointed or self-appointed or whatever,
Right.
whatever it was. He needs to get out of that campaign mode. The campaign is over. The campaign is over. Even if after the campaign he was appointed to be some kind of vetting individual, that's not how you air out stuff. You do things behind closed door, discreet. Like putting some especially somebody as accomplished as I forgot her name, her first name, Sarah.
So
Excuse me,
best
right?
Yanti.
Uh, yeah, exactly. As accomplished as he is, right? To come out in the public and just post things out there, things that you have not verified, you have not done any due diligence on, to just put it out there and just put somebody credibility on the line who hasn't even been appointed. I think that's a little bit of a premature way to behave. Secondly, I think, as I said, we're out of the campaign season. Even if you are appointed as a vetting process person, you do that discreetly behind closed door. Reach out to the university that if you have a resume that she listed on her resume, and do that. If you have question, reach out to her. If she can defend it behind closed door to you that she did indeed earn those degree, allow us to go behind before the Senate and defend that. Right? It's just, you don't have to come on social media and write all these 2 pages paragraph and attacking somebody's credibility, someone who hasn't been appointed yet. I think that's a little uh, we if the president is allowing that or the administration is allowing that, they need to scale back. We are out of the campaign season. We need to behave accordingly. Behave like you are in an administration that is ready to lead with dignity. Yeah.
If I may just add just a little bit to, I mean, I'm totally agreeing with everything Gabriel is saying, but I also want us, as much as we will do the vetting and all of that. Yes, we want people, qualified. But I think we're too hung up on credentials. I mean,
Thank you. Yeah.
yes, I
Yeah.
mean, if the person has demonstrated the competence, the experience, what does the people really mean? I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, look at Ms. Bestow's track record. We all know she worked with the UN for quite a while. She worked for the government of Liberia. I understand she worked for the Ministry of Health. So she has really acquired a lot of experience. This lady met with the Pope when she was on mission in Sudan. I mean, this is how much she has been hobnobbing and rubbing shoulders with, And what else do you need? You want to have the international connections to be able to promote your country's foreign policy. And what is diplomacy? It's all networking. Who do you really know? This really, yes, you need the papers, but I think we shouldn't get too hung up on credentials as much as I think we should question this person's, competence, their capacity to perform, their experience. And this is not just about Sarah. I mean, going forward, we hope
Yeah.
those are the things we'll actually be focusing and concentrating on more than just a diploma.
Yeah.
Let me
Absolutely.
welcome Mr. Larry Kennedy, Lawrence Kuhn Kennedy after 1980.
Is this an inside joke? Okay.
It's a Southeasterner joke.
How you doing, Larry?
Welcome, Larry.
Yes, sir.
And you met us talking about today we're expecting maybe later tonight some names coming out, but we didn't have some new appointments today. But people who supposed to be in support of this government, who kind of were campaigning, are now coming out throwing people names out there. Oh, this person is not qualified, doesn't have this kind of degree. Just a way. So it tells us that maybe that person is being kind of considered, and people who don't like it are fighting and going public. Because if you really believe that people should be vetted and people are getting vetted, you should trust those responsible to do it. But to go in the public and kind of put things out there, does this reflect on the UP leadership that they are not kind of trying to rein in their guys?
Well, you cannot stop the bootlickers from doing their job. They're the ones who maybe they feel that they are entitled to certain positions, and so if the people they favor or they themselves, names are not coming up, they will start throwing other people's names just to kind of throw a whole lot of mud out there. But the one great thing about people who are not chasing this stuff, Liberia doesn't have like a private sector, right, where there are opportunities for people to say, look, I'm going to pursue a job in the private sector, or I'm going to maybe start a business in the private sector. Because the crazy thing about it, look at people who were once on the executive side. They have kind of recycled and gone back at it as a senator or a representative. They don't seem to be like a private sector where you can say, oh, listen, I'm going to work for like a law firm or a major banking institution, or I'm going to work for like a major oil company or a manufacturer. There's nothing in there. You see people who are in the executive branch who refuse to leave. So they're setting themselves up now in tenure positions just to lock themselves in. I saw, what's his name, Wilson Toppet, pursuing a 10. It's so ridiculous that people just don't know when to say when and move into the private sector. While they were there, they never created the opportunities for job and economic development. And now that it's starting to hit them because they don't have anything else to do, they're trying to make sure that they remain on government payroll. McGill, you were a minister of state. You didn't do anything to create a job or an environment where you can, when you leave government work, you can go into the private sector.
Yeah.
There you are, recycled. You didn't do all these things for the counties. Now you figure that as a senator, or representative, or legislator, you can come back and do this stuff. It's ridiculous. You know, people would be throwing other people's names out there, and I'm so glad I'm one of those persons who do not need government of Liberia a job. If government of Liberia certainly needs some technical people to come in, they should pursue them and not listen to all these bootlickers coming out there and start throwing all kind of crazy, wacky names out there. It's silly, you know, but
Yeah.
that's what you get when the circus is in town.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that's a circus. That brings us to the next thing that I want us to be talking about, which is, and we started this from yesterday. Well, asset declaration. And from now on until those in authority comply with the law by declaring their assets, we'll be talking about it. So, according to the law, you should declare your asset before taking office. President Boakai and Vice President Jeremiah Count, I don't believe they have, or yet, or it has not been published. So I believe that if they really declare their asset, because this is something that we're calling for, we will hear that through press release. Professor Kennedy, what you make of this asset declaration, and I'm particular on the president, the vice president to start with. And I think the lawmakers, the House, they passed. They went and did something today. Say, oh, we should declare our asset. I mean, and have some resolution to declare their asset. I don't know if that's how the law works. That there is a law, and then you go in the House again and make another law to abide by the law. Larry,
look, if there were two people in the country that knew for a fact they were going to get a job, it was the president-elect and the vice president-elect. Those two people should have known that they should have the asset declaration statement already ready before they take office, because they knew they were going to land a job. I can understand some of the other people saying, oh, we didn't know, even though they may have been informed well in advance that they were going to get the job. But if you're going to preach the gospel of asset declaration before taking the job, then you should lead by example on that gospel. Yeah. You know, it shouldn't be one of those things where, you know, do what I say, but don't do what I do. You know, the man is not practicing what he preaches. But this is the thing when it comes to leadership, right? You lay out the ground rules. I know that people who support United Party will be saying, oh, it's too early to do this, it's too early to do that. But listen, your word is your bond. You said asset declaration was going to happen before you take office. People would say, oh, you didn't say before you take office. Well, you're bending the rules. Another thing I can remember clearly the president was saying is people who are given certain type of ministerial jobs, he was going to ask them to go and spend time in the various counties. I don't know if anybody remember that. He was saying that he wanted these people to go and spend time in the various counties to know how people in the rural parts of Liberia were actually living and surviving, so they can get a sense of the poverty level in the country. Will he stick to that claim? Look, your word has to be your bond. Liberia is, if you take a look at the countries around Africa, the poorest countries in the world, they're all in Africa. Why? Because leaders come to power and they don't stick to what they promised.
Yeah.
And Liberia will be one of those situations. But, you know, people would say it's too early. Fine, it's too early. And let's see, maybe 2 years from now, it may still be early. Who knows? But you got to put the asset declaration on the table and lead by example. I can tell you this. When we talk about Bear Stearns, right, from the investment banking side, when we talk about Bear Stearns like around 2008, when the financial crisis happened, I can never forget one of the senior executives within JP Morgan. He came out there and he said, look, listen, one thing that we do here in JP Morgan is we lead by example. He said, all of the executives out here, they've been here these many years because they lead by example. If any one of them comes out here and you notice they're not doing what they're saying, what they're asking you to do, you kind of let us know and we'll get rid of them. You know, you find people when you don't do it. Yeah, you lead by example. That's what you have to do. So I will hope before the week is over, President Boakai, Vice President Kuhn will declare the assets, because that was what George Weah then failed to do. And nobody in his administration followed suit, you know. So Lead by example. Let's see what
Mm.
happens.
And Gabriel, what is the link between this asset declaration, the economy, and uh, everything else when it comes to governance? Maybe we're making too much. Maybe it's not a big deal.
No, it's not. It is a big deal, Dennis, especially for a poor country or poorly managed country such as ours, right? And the reason I think the asset declaration is important because you want the citizen to know this is what I had, this is what I gained on my own personally before taking office, right? So that way, if let's say as uh, Larry was saying, 2 years from now, you have, 3, 4, 5 mansions. We can say, okay, we know your salary that you're getting for, let's say, as a VP or as a president, you know, that cannot afford you those property that you're accumulating. This is what didn't happen with Weah's term, right? Even though it didn't happen, he didn't declare his assets, but we know what he was doing, what he was, getting all that money from to build all those properties around, right? So if you are coming after someone who's literally stated who failed to declare their assets, and you claim that this is going to be a new person in charge, you know, uh, a different era, right, from what we had before, you're supposed to lead by examples. Declare your asset, even if you can't do it prior to taking office. The first few, as I said, I will give him maybe 6 months to a year, but 6 months tops, right? Within the next 6 months, I expect you to maybe declare your asset. If not, then we cannot expect it. Now, the link between this and the economy and how it is, it allow without declaring your assets, it allow you to literally, I don't want to sugarcoat it, steal. You have the ability to easily steal from the state without anybody knowing exactly where you're getting that money from, right? Because you did not declare your asset, nobody know where you're getting the money from. So that's the link there. But it is a big deal, especially for a poor country. And if you want to lead for by example, those are the basic, the smaller things you need to do that people will see and kind of apply a level of intentionality that this administration is intentional about what they said they're going to do. They are actually doing what they said they're going to do. So that's the way I look at it. Yeah.
Right. And President Weah did declare his asset, except that it was later on in his presidency. And when they were declared, we don't know what, because they were never published. When you ask, they say, take advantage of the Information Act and go to the LACC, and they will show it to you.
So do we consider that declaration?
Halfway, because you should actually publish.
I think that's the whole point, right? We want to
Yeah.
see what you have.
Yeah.
Victor, to
Yeah.
what extent has the performance or what we did put pressure on the Boakai government to do this asset declaration?
Well, let me tell you, Dennis, if we look at the number of officials from this past administration who were sanctioned, all right, for acts of corruption, thievery, all right, I think the people really expect a lot from this incoming government in terms of standing up all of those institutions that are supposed to help us fight corruption, including attitudes, right? I think there's a lot of pressure on this government to make a difference. As Gabriel indicated, it helps when the incoming government actor declares an asset. It gives you an opportunity to do a lifestyle audit and see what the lifestyle match what they are bringing to the table. But more than that, this is a broken promise from this president. He's on record declaring that he will do so. Now, whether he does so later or not is immaterial because he has already fallen afoul of the law. The law clearly states that it must be done before and then, of course, subsequently as you serve in government.
Right.
So day one has already gone by. This is day two, and it really undermines the whole message of, fighting corruption because this is the gateway, I believe, to acts of corruption. If you don't know what it is that this person is coming in with, how do you then go and determine whether they are living excessively, or or whatever it is? It's very difficult. So it is a missed opportunity. I said this on this network previously, that it will be a real black mark on this government if yesterday were to pass without the president and at least the vice president declaring the asset, which they haven't done. How do and I think it's gonna dog them for probably the rest of the administration. What justification? What are they going to tell us? And now the tongues are already wagging. People are saying things. How watches have entered the landscape. Houses are being remodeled. We're hearing all these things. I think a declaration would have set all of these things aside and brought clarity to the landscape, which it didn't do. And it really, it baffles me. I don't understand why.
Thank you. Larry, just before we leave this topic on asset declaration, I want you to, I would say Professor Larry, so that you know what I'm heading, to just tell a little bit about asset declaration. So the law say assets, income, and liabilities. So what does this mean, and how does that tie in with this whole transparency, governance, and everything else?
So anything you own that has some value, some monetary value, anything you own that if you were to sell, you can turn into cash, anything you own that has, like I said, monetary value, it's something that you have to let, and this has to do with the law pretty much. But it's important for people to understand why it is that you're doing what it is that you're doing. And the reason being, and I think this is something that Anangwe touched on and Gabriel touched on, the reason being, people need to know that if a year from now, and we've seen this so many times in Liberia, in many sub-Saharan African countries, a year from now, you have someone who could barely afford a car.
Yeah.
This was what people were saying, particularly about McGill. And then all of a sudden, and even Twet, all of a sudden you see this person can pay up to $5,000 or $10,000 to fly business class. It doesn't match the salary they're bringing in. If your salary is about $3,000 to $5,000 a month, and you're living at around $15,000 to $20,000 a month, the logical explanation would be you're involved in some sort of misappropriations or plainly in stealing, right? Yeah. So if you're coming in saying the total assets, everything you own, not your net worth, but what you actually own is worth about, let's say, $100,000. And you're leaving office, like we're seeing in some cases right now. People have pardon me. And let's say you're leaving and all of a sudden you have like $1.2 to $2 million or so.
Yeah,
that's a problem. People want to know where you get the money from. And that is not just in Liberia. It happens throughout pretty much a lot of the countries out there. They all want you to do asset declaration to be able to validate that you're not ripping off the state, And over here in the U.S. especially, the IRS will come after you. Even if you are selling drugs, if you show that you have money and you try to put it in the bank, the IRS will come after you.
Yeah.
So Lara mentioned briefly about liabilities, because they also want you to declare your liabilities, how much you
Absolutely. Yeah. And like you're saying, liabilities, if you're indebted, that is a motivation for corruption. What liabilities are these people coming in? Some of these people, they own mortgages. Some of them owe hundreds of thousands of dollars on homes that So so it is important for us to know what your indebtedness is. I mean, those are your liabilities, because those could be your motivation to graft. And this is why it is important. You can't come to the government, you're earning $5,000, but your wage bill, your liabilities, you have to pay $10,000, $15,000 per month for your outstanding. Obviously, you're going to look elsewhere to augment That part of it, that your salary is
For
now
you
going to
to get
cover.
them.
And these are some of the motivations for corruption.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, this is Focus on Liberia. Between the headlines, we are discussing day 2 of the Boakai Presidency and what we are left behind. And that's a great way to segue into that. President Weah left the government. He's now former president. And during his farewell speech, he spoke up briefly about what he left behind: money. So based on that, I want us to touch on that briefly. So what we are left behind, I want us to look at the money, mainly the consolidated account, the reserve. Consolidated account means the money they use every day to pay people and run the government. How much is there? We also want to look at, when it comes to what he left behind, is how much, what else did he leave behind? Because when you inherit something from somebody, you want to check and see what is there. So far, so we're going to start with the money. He has put this out there. We have not heard from the current government, as the Boakai government, whether this is true or false. Yeah. But based on that, we're going to believe what President Weah said he left behind. It says that he left the total cash of 40,375,090 cents in the consolidated account. In 2018, what he said was 7 million. That's what they meant there. Yeah. So they have added more. Then when it comes to the reserve, they met 94.9 million in the reserve. And while leaving now, they are leaving 222.7 million. But Anthony has just joined us. He was traveling. So I want to, Anthony, before we even go into what President Weah left behind, let me give you an opportunity to get your take on day 2 of the Boakai Presidency. And we had no new appointment today, but there was some chatter there coming from people that Larry described as bootlickers, talking about credentials. So just for 1 minute, your take on day 2 of the Boakai Presidency.
Well, day 2, Dennis, I didn't get to see anything much. It is fair to say now that Boakai is okay. He met some Japanese diplomats in Liberia today. There are pictures to that effect. And we did not get any official communication what exactly was done, except that he met Japanese officials. Whether these were diplomats that, for any specific reason or purpose, we are yet to know the reason he met them for. So if anything, that's the only thing we know. You mentioned that no additional appointments made today. So if I'm to say whether or not something was accomplished today, I would say nothing was accomplished today because they didn't tell us. And one cannot say because they didn't tell us nothing was done. Why wouldn't the government want to tell us if they had anything significant accomplished today? We can only assume to say, well, maybe nothing significant was accomplished today. Now, the issue of appointments, when we came in, it took a couple of days, and they started making some appointments. Unity Party is in power. We should know that. Unity Party was in power for 12 years. They have experience. Joseph Boakai was marketed on this narrative of having experience, you know, and on day 1, he will know what to do, or the Unity Party will know what to do. But this is the very Unity Party now. Day 2, there was no executive order to show any sharp difference between, you know, they and the CDC. So we have not seen anything significantly different to show that, well, we have a different government now, except that we have a different person in the executive mansion with a different name and also a different vice president. Nothing significant we are seeing right now, Dennis. So I'm not sure what was accomplished today, but I would say nothing was accomplished today.
Well,
Yeah.
you can say nothing. There was something. Maybe it's not enough based on. All right.
Insignificant.
Right. Let's take us to what we are left behind, and we want to start with the money. So, Gabriel, when it comes to money, I know he announced the consolidated account and the reserve. When it comes to money, has you take over a government, money wise, what should you be looking for? Has okay, let me make sure this is there. Would that be those two accounts or what else?
Yeah, I would say those two account, but also at least a little bit of coverage. Coverage in the sense that at least 3 months of civil servant pay covered. At least 3 months or up to 3 months or 6 months. But from what we're looking at, I think what was it, 40 million that was left in that account, right?
Yeah.
Supposedly the January uh, bill hasn't been paid yet. So let's say even if we allocate 26 million for that, right? To pay the civil servant for January, right? So that means we're only left with 14 million, right? So technically, and I think I mentioned this earlier, technically that means the current president now, he has to worry about how do I make up the rest for the month of February, going forward. So that's what I think. This is not enough in as much that it is surplus, right? But it is not enough. I would have expected maybe 3 months up to 6 months, of wage bill in that consolidated account. Now he also left, I think, 200 to round it up, 223 million, all right,
Yeah.
222.7, 223, right? Um, and according to him, there was 90, I think 94 million there, or 95 million there if you want to round it up. So in his case, to be fair to him, if that was true, if that's what he inherited, then we can say he did well in terms of the reserve that he left there, because that means he grew that reserve account by 135%. So that is pretty solid. The only problem that I had is the consolidated account. That means your in you and I layman term, your checking account that you use every day, you should have at least 3 months or 6 months your bills covered in that account. And in our case, we only have uh, you know less than 2 months in there. So that's the problem that I have with that account, and what he left in there.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Larry, let me come to you. Has the government take over? They know the consolidated, and also they know and like Gabriel said, the checking account. They know the spending money, what is there, and also what is in the reserve. What else should they look at? And I don't know why they didn't mention the debt, or if that will have anything on it too.
You
So
nailed
Larry.
it. That's exactly what I was going to say. You have to look at the debt, right? Because right towards the end of last year, we saw issues with Liberia not being able to make its debt payments.
Mhm.
And that's what get a lot of countries in trouble when you miss your debt payment. It was the same issues that when the US placed sanctions on Russia, Russia was at risk of missing some of its debt payments to investors. Because as soon as you miss your debt payment, what happens? They cut off the lending facility to you, right? The same thing happened in Hong Kong when Hong Kong was having all those riots. And the big three credit reporting agencies decided to lower their credit rating because they said it was fear Hong Kong was going to miss the debt payment. Hong Kong got pissed off, they panicked. The same thing happened over in Ghana. My brother Gabriel was just over in Ghana, and I think he took some money over there to help Ghana kind of settle the debt. But here's the deal. When Ghana missed the debt payment, what happened? The international community sort of cut off lending to Ghana, and Ghana had to wait for that 3-point-something billion in aid from the IMF.
Yeah.
They should focus on Liberia's debt, because Liberia was at between moderate to high risk of debt default.
Yeah.
They missed debt. This incoming administration should pay close attention to debt. The reason being, they can only get money from either the IMF or through grants from the World Bank and loan programs from the World Bank.
That's it.
Weah have been asking the IMF to kind of let them slide on certain debt payments because they couldn't meet certain requirements. They've been sliding. So this incoming administration need to pay close attention to that, because the second they start missing that debt repayment, they're going to cut off that access to money. And when you cut off the access to money, you're in big trouble. So I would pay close attention to the debt, whether it's internal or external debt, pay close attention to that. But also, I will wait until I hear from the central bank in terms of how much money is actually left over. I want to listen to President Weah, who's getting his information from TWE, who everybody knows TWE cannot tell the truth. I would actually wait to get the information directly from the central bank. Because if these guys had money, civil service would have been getting paid on a regular basis. And we know civil service won't get paid consistently, So I would just kind of wait, hear from the central bank, but also go directly to the IMF and the World Bank and other external partners, because they owe money not just to these two entities. They owe money to the African Development Bank. They owe money to some other supranational banks. These are other big banks like the Asian Development Bank and so on. Check with those people. See how much you owe and make sure you do not miss your debt payment. Or come in and restructure the debt. Maybe give yourself 6 months or so before you start making new payments. But that's what I would pay close attention to. But the expectations are too high right now for these guys to come in, like what my brother Anthony Sia just said. So not to go 24, 48 hours with nothing significant happening. People are looking for you to hit the ground running, not hit the ground and saying, oh, give us until next week, They don't want to see that.
Let me say something real quick. Sometimes
before
when
you say that, I want to ask, will the debt, if we owing so much, I know assets and like, will that affect what is in the consolidated account, or it has no bearing?
No,
I will let Larry answer that, but I wanted to say sometimes you ever study for a test and you think you're gonna ace that test, and you get in a class and they put a paper in front of you and you blanked out, you don't know what you're doing. Be a perfect case what's happening right here.
Yeah. So
anyways,
what's in those
Larry,
accounts? I'm sorry, Gabriel. Go ahead, brother. Wrap it up.
No, go ahead. I just wanted to.
What's in those accounts are only important because you want to make sure that you have, like Gabriel just mentioned, you have enough coverage to meet your immediate expenses, right? You have two important people in that country. You have the fiscal side, the guy in the finance ministry now, Boakai Presidency, who's been on FOL several times. You have the fiscal guy who's responsible for paying the bills for the government, right? He's there to make sure the government pays its bills on time. So he needs to come into that office on day one, hit the ground running, know which accounts to go through, know who owes what to whom. And then you have the guy on the monetary side at the central bank, who you're going to have a problem with, because this guy has no financial economic background, but he's setting monetary policy. But to answer your question, Dennis, what is in those accounts is only relevant to see if you have immediate coverage to pay your bills to your international partners. If you come and hit the ground and you know you don't have that money, you should go and talk to them right away. You can't wait till next week or something. IMF, World Bank usually have their people on the ground for you to reach out and talk to them right away. Because IMF gets its money from investors. Yeah. The IMF is also known as the International Bank for not the IMF. The World Bank gets its money from investors because they're known as the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development. They issue World Bank bonds. World Bank bonds are sold to Wall Street. Wall Street are the investors. The investors only care about getting the money. If you can't make some of those payments on the World Bank loans, investors are going to tell the World Bank, cut it off. Yeah. So Liberia's going to be in deep trouble. So yeah, the money in those accounts, they are important to make sure that you can cover your immediate debt.
Thank you. Gabriel, do we say thank you to President Weah for at least saying this, because the last time when they took over, that information was not shared as to what was left. And so for the rest of the 6 years, it was always, we inherited empty coffers. Some said, no, I left you money and that. So now, President Weah also mentioned that, hey, this was 7 million. Now I'm leaving. You left me with 7 million. I'm leaving you with 40. You left me with 95. I'm leaving with you with 223. Is that So looking at what they changed, the one when we are in school, they say Delta. Looking at the Delta, should we be clapping for President Weah here?
It, to be honest, I hate to
No,
do this, but
Victor.
oh,
Oh,
okay,
Let
okay,
Victor
yeah,
oh,
take that one.
yeah, yeah.
you
Go ahead.
just a giver, but yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm not really, I'm a science student, I'm a chemistry guy, but
That's why I use the Delta because I was coming to you.
yes, of course, Delta. From the look of it, I think the president sought to draw a contrast between when he took over from Mrs. Sirleaf and when he is handing over. As has been indicated here on this platform right now, when you're talking reserve, we want to hear the net reserve,
Mhm.
right? Our salaries current, what are our obligations? We don't know what the obligations are. You mentioned that already, Dennis. We don't know what our debts are. Now, we also have to factor in the cost of living 6 years ago. It's not the same as the cost of living today. Maybe $7 million at a time could have done so much. Maybe today, what is the rate of exchange on the Liberian market around the world? We know so many things are happening. So even though the amount that he's leaving seems larger than what was there, but relatively, is it really that large? So I'm curious to know. I mean, $40 million. Somebody indicated here you want at least 3 to 6 months to cover the salary checks. Now, the salaries are not the only things that are crucial in Liberia. Our people rises. Do you have ample supply of these things in the market? Fuel, commodities. So yes, I like what the president did, but I'm hoping that the incoming team will also corroborate these figures,
Mhm.
and then let them help us and put them in context. Because right now, I think they're out of context. They're just numbers, But what do they mean in terms of our wage bill? How much can this $40 million cover? How long can it carry us? But what do we owe? Can we pay our debt? Like Larry just indicated, even Gabriel. What is our obligation to the international, our international partners? Are we in trouble? How to cover our rear ends? So I think those are the questions that need to be answered and answered very quickly. I think we're already saying this. This is why 24 hours these days is a lot of time
Yeah.
to simply sit around and do nothing. And that is what it seemed like today from the outside. I mean, because if they did do something, they should put it out there and let us know. As long as we don't have it, we're going to assume that today they took the day off on a Tuesday. The following day after the inauguration, yes, no executive order, no new appointment, nothing. Couple of meetings, no re-outs on the meetings, nothing is on the executive mansion website. Only secondary, tertiary news agencies are interpreting what happened today. I don't think this is the way to go. So yeah, I hope that the incoming team will help us, make sense of these numbers. As of now, they're just numbers.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Sia, the transitional team, because talking about reserve now and all this, that's why we're hoping during the transitional period, we wanted to hear something. There were reports that, in fact, the money for the inauguration, not all the money was given, but people were so tight-lipped. It was like, okay, let's just do this gingerly. Let's just be careful before it blows up, because we are trying to, it's like a child sitting on a on a banister, and you try to say, well, if I rush, this child may just drop. So let's just be careful. You think this is where some of this problem is coming from? Even the inauguration that we saw, and we saw that people were not passing out water, there was no fan, and all these things. Say, well, I mean, microphone. We couldn't get microphone so that we hear what the president and vice president was saying. And they say, well, because there's no money, but nobody is telling us. So now Mr. Weah has put out some numbers here, and I don't know how long we're going to wait for this to be verified. You think the way the process was handled, has something to do with this?
Yes, and to a greater extent than this. Let us bear in mind that this is the experienced team, we were told. This is a team that came on a rescue mission. When you are on a rescue mission, you are prepared. You have all the tools to immediately effect the rescue operation.
Yeah.
Is that why you see? Let me contrast this. Joe Biden of America, the Democratic Party that has experience when it comes to governance, America was in trouble. And they were prepared. From the transitional period, they had executive orders ready to go on day one. They have programs ready to go on day one. Day two, we heard a press conference from the White House informing the people of America steps they were taking right away. So where is the rescue team? You came to rescue somebody. You arrive at the scene and you are doing absolutely nothing on day two. Dennis, hear me out here. This is day two of the rescue operation. We have no idea what was achieved today. Do we not deserve to know what was accomplished today?
No press.
We do
No press
deserve to
secretary.
know.
Yeah.
No press secretary, no presidential press, nothing.
So yes, we had 2 months of transition, Dennis. The transitional team repeatedly said to us that the transition was going smoothly. President Weah now is saying, we are leaving this with you, we are leaving you a stronger economy than we inherited. What is the Unity Party's counter to that? Zero. When Manaseli handed power, quote unquote, or turned over no to President Weah never wasted time. He said, we are inheriting a broke economy. Now, this is the Rokin speaking on day two. Where is the experienced man? Where is the rescue team? They can't even tell what they're doing right now. This is the team that is disorganized, unprepared. They not put anything into motion to carry on the rescue operation. The head of the rescue team does not even know where they are. 2 months, they go into finance ministry, going here and there. They didn't put any report together to make on day one. We have not heard from the government officially on day two. Anyone can give them pass on day one because of what happened, because JMB got into an unfortunate situation. So that was reason for anybody to be pounded. But this is day two now. We have not heard from the executive mansion. Someone said absolutely nothing on the website as we speak. So where do we supposed to go down to get information on the rescue operation? The rescue operation looks like it's dead on arrival. And I will be the one to say it.
Man.
I will be the one to say it.
You took out the gloves, my man.
Yeah.
You're supposed to keep the gloves on.
This is what Liberians do. Oh, yeah, get the people time. United Party was in government for 12 years. They should have the experience. They said they were ready. Liberia was in trouble. They were coming to rescue us. Day two, we are still in distress.
I mean, so Mr.
Even appointments, you know what's going on now when it comes to the appointments? People are fighting.
Yeah.
United Party, the party structure has no control over who's getting appointed. They don't even have a vetting team in place as vetting the names of individuals submitting an application for appointment and forwarding those names to the president. Nothing like that. Each side have their own list. That is what is delaying the appointment today.
So this
I would have expected an executive order from Joseph
Mr. Sia, is that
an executive order from Joseph Boakai firing all CDC officials and allowing maybe the HR at every ministry and agency to take charge until his nominees are confirmed to start operation. The people you call thieves, you got them still working. They must continue to work because you have not appointed anybody and confirmed anybody. Where is the urgency on the rescue operation? Zero urgency whatsoever. I rest my case.
And to add
no,
to
let me point out that
hold
on, Victor. Want to hold Mr. Sia accountable here because he's saying that this is what's going on. Mr. Sia, we don't. This is all speculation, right? Because we don't. You said they are fighting for jobs and all that.
Maybe he has inside information.
No, but Dennis, that's what I
Well,
was going to
and let me
say.
also point out that on the executive website, the executive mansion website, we have the president meeting with the story about the president meeting with the U.S. delegation, right? So that's a fresh story. It wasn't there yesterday; it's there today, and you have this picture of the meeting. So that's on the executive mansion website. Just wanted to point that out. Go ahead, Victor.
No, I just wanted to add on to Mr. C's comment. Look, this is the experienced team coming in. I mean, say whatever you may about Wilson Tapper, but I think Wilson Tapper was within his right to go to court. Who appointed these people to go to EPA and go and take over? Who sent them there? I mean, this is not the high jungle. You wait to be appointed, and then you go and you can't just walk to an agency and take over. This is the point I think he's making, and this is chaos. And I don't think it should continue this way. I would have hoped that this appointment would have included in there at least the presidential press secretary, someone who will be telling us what this president is doing. So they show us photos on the executive mansion website. What is this? What does it tell us? We are interpreting what they're doing. And once we are left to interpret, we will ascribe whatever we want to what is being put before us. And I think this is chaos. It shouldn't be this way. So yeah, Wilson Tapper was of course he wants to protect his performance at the agency. He will wait. He said he wants to turn over to the rightful person. The people who came to take over from his agency don't have presidential appointment. And until they do, he's not turning over. What is wrong with that? He was within his right to do that. They shouldn't be doing that. They should wait until they get a presidential nomination, and then you go this is not jungle, administration. I think that's because no one seems to be in charge. Everybody is
that confirms what Mr. Sia was saying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we saw that with this guy, the Yinkan guy who went and said this is 10 years, he said, get outside, man. So Larry, that was the weird time. And so I think people are anxious because they want to break from President Weah, because I believe the bar was set so low. So there should be no reason why anybody will go under that. Larry, talking about what President Weah left behind, let's talk about policies, right? Did President Weah make any policy that someone should overturn on day one? Like for instance, I think that moratorium, people were talking about it on rubber and other things. So policy-wise, what are some of the things that we are left behind that need to be looked at during the first week?
The first thing that we did, and Madam Sirleaf also did this, and I would want to see what the rescue mission is going to do, is this whole business of passing an executive order that will remove the tariffs off the rice importers. They all tend to do that, right? Because the rice importers, they're running a cartel. You need to first disband that entire cartel, because rice is the staple food in Liberia. You need to have, I don't understand where these guys, who is advising a lot of these presidents that come in, you need to have free enterprise. The free enterprise market works well. That whole business of executive order, if you check the executive mansion website, you'll see that's one of the first things that President Weah did. Get rid of that executive order. Don't follow through with it. And that whole nonsense about putting a block on rubber, that was just absolute nonsense. It wasn't well thought out, because it wasn't going to hurt America. And in fact, I think Firestone is owned by a Japanese company, right? So that whole concept was just completely out of bounds. But I think they need to focus on their own policies, right? This is something, and I like the analogy that my brother Anthony Sia just laid out. It's like you call the Coast Guard to come and rescue you. They come with a boat that breaks down in the middle of the water. They're not prepared to rescue you, right? So I think some of the key policies when you're coming in place, I would take a close look at what's happening with importing into the country. The reason I mentioned that is the war in Israel and Hamas is expanding into a proxy war. What that means is we import everything. What that means is there's a high risk of food prices going up, because we can see attacks on ships from Yemen. So I would pay close attention to what's happening in terms of the international scene, Make sure you have policies in place that you're not going to run out of staples, like what my man Nangwe just mentioned. Make sure you're not going to run out of things like, a lot of the staples are coming to the country. But definitely, to answer your question, Dennis, I would make sure that a whole executive order of this whole raising tariffs on the rice importer, stop that nonsense and disband that whole rice cartel. But those people are so embedded and entrenched in the system because they pay all these bribes year after year. There's data with United Party. All of those executive orders are on the Executive National website. They did it with the United Party and they did it with Weah government. Is the Boakai administration going to be different? Let's see. Just ban a lot of these cartels, man.
Right.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Gabriel, because I had
No, I was going to just piggyback on what Larry was saying about the free enterprise. Without beating a dead horse here, I know this is something we talk about on the focus on the marketplace. It seems as if we don't understand the importance of like just basic economics, right? You have to understand the kind of economy you want to run. Either you're running a free market enterprise capitalist system or you're running a socialist. You cannot do halfway, right? And if you're running it, you have to just let it do what it's supposed to do, right? You can't just come form a cartel, and allow that to restrict, cause inflation, self-inflicted inflation on your pretty much the staple food in the country, and I hope somebody close to the president, like Larry said, understand that basics that, hey, if you want a free market enterprise, it is pretty much let the best man win. If I'm importing rice for 50 cents, Larry said he importing rice for, $1, or Mr. Nangwe said he importing rice for $2.50. Let the market determine the price. You can't put restriction on mine or put restriction on Larry or Mr. Nangwe, and then you claim that you want a free market enterprise. I hope we just understand our basics and get ourselves out of this rut that we're in.
Yeah. And Gabriel, a question I was going to ask you before you is this whole idea of reserve, right? So anytime we say the reserve, because according to that figure is 222 in reserve, but I don't know. I'm not trying to put on my economic hat here, but there are certain commodities, they are so essential that if those commodities are not available, there is trouble in the country. For instance, rice in Liberia, petroleum products, right? So as a country, we should have those in reserve as well, that we are able to run the country, that if there's crisis, based on the report from Mr. Weah, do we have reserve in that direction also? Rice, petroleum products, and things that, because if there's this rice is not there, there's chaos. If there's no petroleum product, the economy kind of collapses.
Yeah, and I think we talked about this.
Am I getting my economy right here?
Oh no, the issue of rice is a major thing when it comes to Liberian men. Liberian men cannot go one day without eating rice. Then they figure they haven't eaten at all. So definitely, you have to make sure. Didn't we have an issue with the calculation on gasoline in the country? There was a mishap.
Yeah, that's what I was going to talk about.
And that was going to it was going to lead to a lot of, it led to gas lines and a whole lot of chaos. We also had issues with lines for people trying to buy rice. The president, when he was looking at different warehouses, he didn't understand the concept of supply and demand, because if you set, well, not just supply and demand, but also in terms of fixing a price on a commodity. Because if it's costing me about $25 per bag to bring rice into the country, and I want to sell it for about $30 or $40, but you fix the price to $20, meaning I'm going to lose $5 every time, that's nonsense. I'm going to hoard that rice. I'm going to keep it in my warehouse. So it's going to give the impression that you have enough supply, but it's not on the market, because the people putting it on the market is going to lose money. So you are absolutely correct. And you see, it was shocking to watch the U.S. Congress. There was this Congress lady that when they found out that 37% of the agricultural products come from between Russia and the Ukraine, people couldn't believe it. So when the Ukraine-Russia war started, prices immediately shot up, So you need to pay attention to all those things, man. But the problem is, Liberia, we have arable land. You stand in your house, you throw seeds out the window, more than likely it's going to grow. Monrovia is one of the wettest capital in the entire world. But we have issues of people drinking dirty water. We have an abundance of sun that practically killed people on day one. But we have energy insecurity, right? We don't have enough energy to light homes, to power our hospitals and things like that. And the reason being, we just end up putting incompetent people in positions that they shouldn't be. How are you going to take some? Now, I don't want to do Anthony CS number and go ramble on them. So I would just kind of give them a little bit more time. But I'm seeing a whole lot of nonsense happening right now, and it's just kind of troubling, right? You take people, you put them on certain boards that they shouldn't be there. You take a man who was doing public works that belongs to engineering, you put him in terms of national security. How does that balance out? It doesn't seem to make any sense. But hey, like they would say, maybe Larry, it's too early. You need to hold back.
Yeah, I absolutely.
Slow your horses, Larry. It's too early, man.
Mr. C, I have this. There is this. During the war, I traveled to a couple of African countries. So there's this one country, and I actually lived there, right? Guinea, Ivory Coast, Nigeria, Ghana. One of them in this place, there are people who they save for life because they say funeral is a big deal. So when you die, a lot of people when you die and they are counting your possession, you are wealthy. That's a big deal. So this particular group, they prefer even to go to bed hungry so as to save up for a big funeral. I mean, your own funeral. So you don't even eat and go to bed. You can even squat somewhere because you want, when you die, so that your funeral will be huge. You have plenty of things and all this kind of possession. When I heard that President Weah left 40 million in the consolidated account, 222 million in reserve, but you have trash on Broad Street, on Benson Street. You have January pay has not been, even though January has not ended, but this is the 22nd, inaugural is on the 22nd. So people really, sometimes at my job, a big day coming, we get our pay a little early, right? So did Mr. Weah add like that certain people in that certain country to keep yourself hungry so that when you leave, you can say, oh, I left 40 billion. Because if you have to even just take the trash on Benson Street, maybe the entire 40 million will be gone.
Dennis, this situation is like the government is keeping others hungry so that their funeral can be good. But there is that way to pull it is so that they can have a good name. So you have not paid civil servants. If you subtract what should be paid civil servants, you have far less than what they are pronouncing.
Yeah.
You mentioned the issue of the trash. It is the government of Liberia's responsibility to clean the city or cities. You need some money to clean the city. The JMB team been cleaning the city. That should have been the government of Liberia doing so. But the rescue operation felt that cleaning the city, someone would say, how they call it, the low-hanging fruits, right? Well, that clean the city, that's what they started doing. But actually, if the CDC government, has decided to clean the city, they will practically have far less than the $40 million they are talking about. And then you look at domestic debt. Our economic guys are here. I don't know how much is the domestic debt portfolio now, and I don't know if that's a good term for it, right?
Yeah,
if you look at it, and if they should pay all what they owe, businesses in Liberia, practically they will have nothing in their account left.
Yeah.
So they say, well, we're going to do that. We're not going to pay our debt. We're not going to pay the civil servants so that we can have $40 million to announce more than what the Unity Party left, which is $7 million. Then we'll look good. On the reserve, I will give them applause. I will also give the city government applause for at least telling us that we are living this. That which the Unity Party did not do for obvious reason, because they knew that those numbers were being embarrassing.
Yeah.
12 years.
Yeah.
With all the massive support, and you left $7 million. I don't think Justin Sally was not prepared to call that number, because anybody who have known that they will not fail of $7 million, $94 million in reserved. Anyway, then there's something I want to come to here. You show a picture of the delegation from the U.S. to Liberia for the inauguration. Dennis, is that something new? Did we not know that the people were there for the inauguration? So they took the picture and put it on the executive mansion website and work is done. But here's the deal now. If you go to what you're looking at there, the US government is promising to help Liberia in the fight against corruption. Josiah Yeman Boakai did not set a good example when it comes to the fight against corruption, but now declaring his answer, even though he promised here in America, when he was on VOA, it was not only Liberians who listened to him. The US government heard him. Maybe that's why they came.
Yeah.
This is the very US government that sanctioned the past government officials for acts of corruption, the lack of transparency, and also the rule of law. This is Joseph Yeman Boakai, who broke a major promise on the issue of rule of law and transparency. He's not being transparent on day one. They are yet to tell us what they have inherited. Now, some people say we should give them 1 week, 2 weeks, and 3 weeks, and so on and so forth. Dennis,
cut them a slack. Cut them a slack. Let's just
people
wait.
say we should cut them a slack. I'm not cutting them a slack because there's a child in West Point right now who is in distress economically.
Yep.
There's somebody in Riverside now who is sitting on a leaking roof. Let me show you something here, Dennis, and then I will rest my case. Here is a school building in Riverside, Dennis. Here is a school building in Riverside. Do we have time? Does the rescue mission, what are they waiting for?
Wow. This is
where a Liberian citizen or child is going to school. This is garbage.
Wow.
And people say, oh, my God, and slide. Joseph Boakai has been in government for over 40 years. He should
that is in school.
All right. Yes, some pictures then they're showing. We want to see the urgency. You came on the rescue mission, and I'm going to remind people about this rescue mission. They were right when they said that their country needs to be rescued. In the education sector, it needs to be rescued. All across Liberia. One of our reporters in Bon County went to attend the Salala Health Center. You can go and focus on Liberia and watch the video. If you see that health center, you'll feel sorry for the citizens that are in that place. They show the pharmacy. And our reporter went in there, and I was just looking there. Practically nothing in that place there. So they were right when they said they were coming for rescue mission. Rescue mission on day one, they are nowhere to be seen. These people that came from America, you taking pictures with them and putting. Were we not criticizing President Weah for just taking pictures? This was the CDC major criticism. We are just taking pictures. 12 them just taking pictures. They too now are taking pictures and putting it on the executive mansion website. And people want me to believe that that work is going on. That is not work. That is laziness. Let me see what the Liberian government is doing and putting on pictures. Someone comes visit you, then say that work. I'm home. My friend came to visit me. I'll take a picture with my friend. I put it on Facebook. Is that work? Would that even feed my family?
You do have a point.
People need to get serious here. And somebody can tell me and say, oh, you've been too harsh. Yes, we must be harsh about the issue because our people are living in harsh economic realities. If our leaders are not serious and they want to take baby steps, we will not get there.
Thank you.
That's my case.
Thank
You know, let me just put it as graphically as I can. So, Anthony, if you're coming to rescue someone who has fallen in a well, are you going to take a break before you go to rescue the person from the well? I mean, rescue, as they themselves aptly put it, it means there's an emergency.
Yeah,
you know, but
that's a political term, or
is it?
Victor? Yeah,
is it?
This was politics. This was campaign, right?
You know, Dennis, I hate to, I hate to do this, but right now the conditions our people are faced with, there's a dire emergency almost in every facet of our lives. I mean, from Monrovia Clean down to Riverside or to Barobo or to Grand Crew. People are in it. It's an emergency, and so the rescue team. I really hope they have their plans ready to fan out. I think a day wasted is a day too much for our people to wait. Yes, so yes, they met with the U.S. delegation. That is good because these are the people who help us get out of crisis. And that's a good thing. But it couldn't have been the only thing done for today. It couldn't have been. It shouldn't have been. It should not have been. You know, I think a lot more should have been done, and I don't understand what is going on. You know, I really hope tomorrow. I can't wait. You know, I know it's almost it's Wednesday in Liberia now, so I hope they're getting ready to get out and get out there, re-energize our people, get things moving, people.
And Victor, my question for you, because we're on while we are left behind,
Yeah.
do you believe that the Weah government slept hungry so that their funeral will be good?
Well, you know, if you look
I will
at
not leave this question.
if you look at the crisis in almost everywhere, someone talked about the trash in the streets. You know, could some of that money being used, to clean up the city? Because I was in Monrovia, I think, a week or two before, the inauguration, and then I saw people in the streets who I was told were from the United Party. You know, people came in trying to help clean up the street. That should have been the responsibility of the government. So, could that money have been spent to do some of these things? Absolutely. So it is good that they left some money in the bank, in reserve, right, for the incoming government. But at what expense? I mean,
Right.
that's the
And
question.
Victor, let me add
Trouble.
another one. There was a tragedy in Totota, and the
Correct.
government within year,
No,
government even like they were not even aware.
no,
So you're doing all this so you can tell us you left 40 million. Go ahead,
exactly.
complete your
You know,
thought.
yeah. So it's like you go out, you dress up, you look real nice, but all your kids you left at home, they're not even wearing slippers. Then do you call yourself a family man or you call yourself a complete person? No, you got to get your house in order first. Then you look good out there. You can't be
Mm.
too anxious to look good out there when you neglect, what your responsibilities are at home. And I think this is what happened here. I think a lot of the stuff that should have been taken care of was neglected only because we wanted to leave a very good balance sheet and declare to the world. Why do you think that the president was in a hurry to put this out? And I believe that's all it is. Showboating, to say we're drawing a contrast. They left me with nothing, and I'm leaving them with almost 10 times what they left me. But at what expense?
And Gabriel, same question. I know you say you want that question too.
No, you say you're
Right?
not leave. You say
Same
you're
question,
not leave this
and
question.
to add to that, oh, the reserve. Did you leave us money so that we can subsidize Pusawa for the next 3 months, so that we can there can be petroleum products available for the next 3 months? So all that, or you just keeping yourself hungry so your funeral will be take.
So hold on one second here. I have a chart here that I will share with you guys. So maybe it'll paint a good picture of what I think. Now, before I share that, okay, voila. So, in as much that I think on the reserve, I think I said this earlier. I want to give the president, uh, you know, his flowers. If and again, this is with an asterisk. That's if in fact he was, he inherited 94 million and he left 123, then we can give him his flowers because that is a significant growth. Now, if that wasn't the case, so what I want you guys to look at here is just the one at the bottom, the current account, right? And the reason why I want you guys to look at it because of what he left in that account, right? So since 2012, that current account, you see I'm sure all of you guys are seeing
Yeah.
the
What is
balances
current
there,
account?
right? So current, are you guys seeing
Yes, we
the
want to know what current account is. Then you can tell us what the numbers mean.
okay? So current account is basically what the what is it? The president talked about
Okay.
Consolidated
the
accounts.
consolidated, right?
Okay.
Right. So if he since 2012, we were always at negative, and to his credit, he left 40 million And if we account for, let's say 26 million was used to pay for the civil servant, right? That means he left 14, an additional, I think 14 million left, right? So in that case, it's positive, right? Now, to your theory, it could be that he starved himself just to look good at the end, right? In that case, we can say that, right? So in that case, I will, I will give him his flowers, because he left something in there. The same thing goes for the reserve, in as much that I think 223 million is not enough, but the fact that he grew it by that amount, I think that is something we should be very, we should be very proud of. I hope the next administration can do better than that, because I don't think 223 million is, it's not a lot of, money. So I think I want to give him his flower here. That's if those
So
accounts,
Gabriel,
right?
some of us who are not finance guys, then I have a question for Gabriel.
Yeah, because I don't know what these things mean.
What
Yeah, put the chart back up, Gabriel. Let's tell the story behind
Okay.
it.
All right. So which one? Go ahead. Ask the
The
question.
current account. He said 2012 was minus 20.9. 2023 is minus 22.9. What does that mean?
So at the end of the year, right? So this is why he presented at the end of his term, right? When he gave us at the end of his term, right? So at the end of the year, those were the balances. This is not for me. This is from the I think the current Senator Amara shared this chart, but you can find it on the central bank website as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and the point that I'm making here is that
You
if he
still have not explained to me that minus 22.
Can I come in a second? I want to point a couple of important things out. And I like this chart. Sorry to interrupt you, Gabriel. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Let me. Right.
Yeah, this chart.
So let me. I want to just point three things out that is really hurting the Liberian people, and why things are not going to change immediately within the next 2 years. People might tell you otherwise, but nothing's going to change in the next 2 years. And let me tell you why. There are three things over here people need to look at. And in fact, what Gabriel is talking about in terms of the current account as a percent of a GDP, it has to do with having enough to cover your imports. But that is not so much in terms of what is going to harm the Liberian people.
Yeah, Larry, so as of today, when you say 2023 is minus 22.9, what does that mean? Let me get that one first.
So you have to look at your imports versus your exports and seeing where you stand. But you see, they're looking at it in terms of a percent of the GDP, the total production. And that percentage, right? That percentage only represents, to translate it into like how much money you have left to cover imports, right?
Okay.
But that is not so much of the critical thing on that chart.
All right.
I'm glad Gabriel put that chart up. Let me show you the critical thing. There are three critical things on that chart. And that's the reason why people in Liberia are suffering today and they're in poverty. You first need to take a look at the growth rate. You need to take a look at inflation, and you need to take a look at the exchange rate. The exchange rate and inflation, they're kind of interchangeable, right? Because when the exchange rate falls, for example, if you see the exchange rate in 2023, you need 187 Liberian dollars for $1 US. And you look at it from 2012, you only needed 73 Liberian dollars for $1 US. So that means the thing that you used to buy in 2012 were only 73 Liberian dollars. Now today you need 187 Liberian dollars. That means if your salary hasn't gone up to match that, you need a lot more money to buy the same thing, and you don't have that money. That is one reason why you have food insecurity, you have a growth in poverty. But let me take this chart back from the top and show you the things that are really killing the Liberian people and why you can't follow the IMF and the World Bank, because they sucker people all the time. You can see from 2012, they said the growth rate was going to be 8%. In 2013, it was going to be 8.7%. I can even take it back to 2007 and show you how after every 3 to 4 years, something significant happen in the world that always happens, maybe not just the world, maybe in Liberia and the region, that has a major impact on the lives of people in Liberia. Growth rate was expected to be around 8.7%, right, in 2013. But what happened? In December of 2013, we had Ebola coming in through Weah from Guinea. Ebola devastated the economy in the region because our economy is based on extractive minerals, arcelor-metal, golden valerium. All these people, when they fled the country, the economy collapsed, practically collapsed. You can see the growth fell all the way down to 0.7. If your economy is not growing, you're not creating jobs for people to feed their family. It took a while, 2015, 2016. Even in 2015, the US pumped about $500 million into Liberia, but it meant nothing to the economy because it went to the healthcare sector. 2015, at around, I think, the end of December or so, Liberia was declared Ebola-free by the World Health Organization. By 2017, 2018, 2019, what happened? We started moving into COVID. By May or March of 2020, COVID hit. Same situation, the economy collapsed. Even now today, the IMF is predicting that the Liberian economy is going to grow up to about 6% in 2024. That may not even happen because you have the proxy war that's taking place between Hamas and Lebanon. But in Liberia, we don't plan for these things. We don't have.
So Larry, the government turned it around now. So 2021 growth rate 5, 2022 4.8, and 2023 4.6. So that's a good thing.
You're not turning anything around because if you look from 2020, 21, 22, you had negative growth rate. By the time you look at 2021 or so, you only just bringing the economy back to where you practically met it.
It's going down again. All right.
You haven't even done anything. But the other thing you also need to look at is take a look at the inflation. The inflation shot up, meaning people were paying a lot more. If you look at the inflation, what happened by around 2017? Inflation shot up to 2018. I think it even shot up to about 28%. Why? Because we had that whole fiasco with the missing LRDs. The missing LRDs meant there was a lot of Liberian dollars in the economy, and you had so much money chasing fewer goods. The reason why it went up in 2013 because Madam Sirleaf then did the same thing. When Amara Konede was there, they did the same thing, putting a lot of Liberian dollars in the economy. Inflation shot up. They ended up creating something called the central bank bills that they used to do the mop up, which is different than the nonsense that we then did with giving money to the SEAL Team 6, talk about going to do mop up the old-fashioned way where money changes that didn't exist. And you can see the impact on the exchange rate. Look, man.
Right. All in all, the 40 million, the 222 million, they mean almost nothing looking at this chart.
That's meaningless. I want to pay attention to that. And let me wrap it up, then I'll swing over to Gabriel. Because guess what's going to happen? More than likely, they're going to run to the IMF. They will write a letter and run to the IMF and say, look, listen, we have this issue with either our balance of payments or the current account being short. So what we need is we need a loan from the IMF, and the IMF will end up giving them access to their special drawing rights, the SDRs. So they're going to tap into that special drawing rights because the current balance account has that negative balance in there. That's the thing. They go through this cycle. What they fail to realize is they're just looking to pay their bills, they're robbing Peter to pay Paul, but they're missing the part on the development aspect of the Ministry of Finance and Economic Development. They're not focusing on the economic development side. Seychelles, the little small 100,000 population country over there, they focus on economic development. Their GDP per capita, individuals in the country, is making over 40,000 per person, one of the highest in Africa. It's ridiculous. You take a look at the 5 highest growing countries in Africa because they focus on economic development. We don't do that. We're going to run the same thing, concessions agreements, money from the IMF, money from the World Bank. That crap has not worked in over 80 years. And it's never going to work.
Thank you. So Gabriel, you conclude. Gabriel, let me lay something there before you come in, and you can conclude on this, and then we bring in our callers. Based on that, I mean, what kind of finance minister or finance and development planning minister we should be looking for?
I think I kept saying this. I mean, when during the campaign, if they had gone after what's her name, Internet Syed, Dr. Internet Syed, she would have been a good pick. Now, to if they want to get this right, if they want to, I think Larry talked about development. If they want to figure this thing out and make sure that we grow the economy as opposed to, like Larry said, going to IMF, borrowing money to keep paying people, right? Focus on the chart. The chart tells you it has so much information. It will give you everything you need to plan your from the fiscal side to the monetary side. You can look at just that chart and you can figure a lot out. But again, who do we have at the central bank? This is not somebody who has a should have been there. The current, I don't know so much about the current minister of finance, so I don't want to say anything about him. But they have a lot of work. But if they want to figure things out, the chart is right there, and if they don't, it's right on the central bank website. Everything they need to do.
Gentlemen,
But
my question is this foreign reserve. What is the significance of this reserve? Because I understand the reserve account is in New York.
it is in New York. Yes.
What is the significance of it? How is it used? How does it benefit Liberia? Why must we keep money there all the time? I want to know.
So let me give a take. Maybe Larry can come in. So again, this is where you need somebody who really a president. When I mean somebody, this is where you really need a president who understands economics. I agree with you, Mr. Sia. You can it's literally like a savings account, right? But if in that account you're supposed to leverage it, right? I will say this quickly and I will land. I'll switch it over to Larry. I manage funds on behalf of some countries and on behalf of some of the states that we live in now, like state pension funds and colleges in endowment, right? If you are going to put money in such account, you should be able to leverage some of it to create some kind of sovereign wealth fund. Or else it's just a money that is just sitting there that if you're jam, you can go from and borrow from. You if you're jam, you can go from and borrow. But in actuality, you're not really making much on that money. There's really not much you're making on that money. So you just replenish it. If you have any surplus at the end of the year, you can put some there and make sure it's literally like a rainy day fund. But in essence, if there were any president who is very intentional, who understands these things, they will literally put some of that money to work and make sure they do something good with it. But I'll switch it over to Larry.
Gabriel, let me ask you this: could it be looked at as a fund that you can collateralize to access other opportunities?
Yes, you can, and this is what I'm saying. You can. So perfect example. I think the Nordic state, the Nordic country, like the Norway, the Sweden, right? When they had discover oil, they take so Norway right now,
Right.
25% of their budget comes from their sovereign wealth fund.
Okay.
25% of it, right? So they took that, I think 1.4 trillion and put it in like sovereign wealth funds, like literally fund manager across the US investing on their behalf.
Right.
Every year they return on that, contribute 25% to their budget. So that's 20, they only have to worry about 75%. So
Okay.
to your point, yes, we can collateralize it and put it to work and make sure even if you're getting 2-3 million from there, that thing can build maybe two schools every year. I mean, fund to your university over there that's in dilapidated
But
condition.
if your
Fund it.
money is sitting in somebody's account, they will be the one to invest it and get the returns on it, right?
And that's what's happening to France and all the francophone countries that they can't access their money. France is
I'm,
taking all the interest on that.
I'm asking because other countries they use natural resources. Some will use gold reserves, that kind of thing. I thought that's what we were talking about here, not necessarily cash sitting down somewhere.
Yeah, ours is just cash. I don't think we have any gold reserve. Right.
Correct. Okay.
Yeah.
Ladies and
Larry.
gentlemen, if you are just joining us, this is Between the Headlines. We are discussing day 2 of the Boakai Presidency and what President Weah left behind. Because you see, when you take over somebody's house, it's very important to know what's inside. Maybe if you don't like dogs and there are cats there and dogs, you're in trouble. So we want to know, right? And if you want to be part of this conversation, please call the number on the screen, 605-313-6004. The code is 791403#.
Dennis, before you go to the callers, I have something to share here. So, and I will remind us that the new administration is on a rescue mission. Day 2 pass. Where is the 100-day deliverable? When will we get to know what is the 100 days deliverable for the people of Liberia who are in distress right now? Does anyone know whether this new administration has 100 days deliverable laid out with time, what those things are, when they will be accomplished? Do we know? Do we know? So one thing I also want to close on here is President Boakai now made a major promise that in 100 days, no car will get stuck in the mud. Do we know how it's going to be done? 100 days too short.
Yes,
That's almost like 4 months. So
I think 100 days there will be no mud. I think that's how we know.
Well, we're down to 88 days now.
Yeah.
Or 98 days.
Right, and there will be no mud.
When are we going to get to know the steps that will be taken? So maybe they'll pray for the sun to shine like the way the sun, shine yesterday, and then all the mud will dry out, and then no car will get stuck. Maybe
we got prayer warriors in
Liberia. We want to see that.
We got prayer warriors in Liberia.
With that, what do we look forward to for day 3? I know day 2 has passed. For those of us who learn in Sunday school, he said, I must work the work of him that sent me while it is day. The night cometh when no man shall work. The night has come, nobody is working. So what do we look forward to in day 3 from the Boakai Presidency? Let me start with Mr. Nambi.
I mean, let me start with the low-hanging fruit. I think there will be more appointments on day 3. I think the government will begin to take shape. I'm hoping that there will be pronouncements now from the executive mansion by way of executive order. I know we kind of skirted around it a little bit, Larry, and I think Gabriel were talking about taking a look at the tax regime and stuff like that. I think Anthony here on another show was talking about whether there is a need to track containers that are coming to that kind of thing. Those things that are taking money away from Liberians who are supposed to help with the economy. So I'm hoping that day 3, like we said when we started here, I think day 2 was used as a day for somber reflection and see, some of those missteps that were made yesterday. And so I think the 3 will be a reset, and I think the government will begin in earnest. I'm hoping. So I would like to think that there will be additional appointments that the government will begin to take shape, beginning with day 3.
Yeah, Gabriel, what we look forward to day 3, because we don't want this day. Let's set expectation now, and if we can manage, then let's manage.
So my biggest expectation from them is communicate. Even if you're moving the needle from point A to point B, say the president has moved the needle from point A to point B. There's a lot of expectation from the citizen to this administration here, right? Just becoming mute and just going about and posting picture and allowing us to interpret the picture does not help your cause, especially if you said that you came to rescue. So I don't know if they have a press secretary or some communication person. Communicate. Put 1 or 2 paragraphs together. It won't be too difficult. If you can't even do a press conference, put 1 or 2 paragraphs together and put it out there. Let people know what you are doing and allow them a little bit of access into the steps you're taking to, support, quote unquote, rescue this country. So communicate.
Let me ask something though. Isn't Charles?
I thought your time finished.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Then isn't Charles Snyder? I mean, I know no official appointment has been announced, but isn't he acting as the presidential press secretary?
Oh, then he needs to do his job.
No, we don't know.
We don't know. Okay.
Larry, day 3.
Yeah. So to Anthony's point, I think.
And Larry, let me mention also that you have dressed the devil. Now the devil is outside dancing, and you are now around. What's going on here?
You have dressed
You
it.
know, I ain't even gonna say anything.
He said he doesn't know the devil that's dancing outside. It's not the one he
yeah,
dressed.
yeah, I know where he's going with that, but I'm not falling for that. But to answer his point, during the VOA interview, the president promised to lay out his complete development program at the inaugural address. And we see what happens, right? It's kind of unfortunate, right? But that shouldn't have stopped them from putting it out and letting people know, because he was going to lay out this whole arrest program, how it was going to work, and was going to give us some tangibles. So Gabriel's point, day 3, you should have a press secretary. You should have daily press briefing. You have some very smart people on your team. Have the daily press briefing. Also, I want to see some policies that's going to describe how you're going to create jobs. When Boakai Kamara had that interview with William and Gabriel on Focus on Liberia, I think it was back in May or maybe June or July, he discussed a couple of things. One of the things he talked about was how you can create almost 500,000 jobs in the agriculture sector. He was also looking to see how he can reduce the recurrent expenditures, because he said roughly 90-something% was going to to pay salaries. Yeah. Where in some instances, and I think he mentioned, Gabriel, I think he said it was like $1 million that had gone to agriculture, right? So I want to see what he's going to come out with in terms of how he's going to change this. And the reason I mention it, because when Amara Kone tried that, they almost jailed him, right? So day 3, I want to see some policies. I want to see the press briefing. I want to see the policies in terms of how you're going to create jobs. I want to see the policies in terms of how you're going to tap the diaspora, especially the healthcare sector, because you can't grow your economy, create jobs, if you don't have a strong healthcare sector. It's so sad that we have so many healthcare professionals in the diaspora, but yet you look at the country itself is suffering in terms of highly skilled medical practitioners. And I think someone raised the question that when the president at the time was running, or when he was elected and he came to the diaspora, he didn't reach out to some of the healthcare professionals to kind of meet with them to see how they can also offer the technical skills to people back home. I think it was a missed opportunity. So I want to see some of these policies in the key areas, man: food insecurity, job creation, dealing with the security sector in the country. And even, I don't know if they ever read this, but there's a climate change report on Liberia, that Liberia is at risk of significant climate devastation from climate change. So yeah, to answer the questions, Dennis, let's see some of the policies coming out right now, because you came in to answer the point to rescue. You should have a rescue plan already in place. You shouldn't be scrambling looking for it right now. So the press briefing and policies, how you're going to create jobs, address food insecurity, address the healthcare sector, those are the things that I want to see.
And then you're muted.
Let's look at your expectation for day 3. And I hope that does not include the appointment of the superintendent of sign-up. Unmute yourself, please.
Dennis, sadly, you're not going to get an appointment. You have a job here to help inform our people. Expectation for day 3, the low-hanging fruits, and that's all we're going to get, because this government does not have anything in place to roll out on day 1, so they don't have anything for day 2, they don't have anything for day 3. Maybe they are not trying to put together what they want to do, and that is the sad part. So low-hanging fruit, we might see some appointments, that's all. A government on day 1 that does not have a presidential press secretary says it all. Day 2, no presidential press secretary says it all. So the president does not have somebody to speak for him. Maybe they're listening to us now. Tomorrow, they might hurriedly appoint somebody. When Joe Biden got elected, day 1, before his inauguration, the press secretary knew they were the one going to be the press secretary. So on day 1, that press secretary started with. Day 2, that press secretary started with. Is this man not the Joe Biden of Liberia? I will continue to hammer this. Dennis, I will tell you what I want them to do.
You are stretching it to America. I mean, why can we look
at Dennis, Americans not human beings.
He made it. He's making out an
Joe
Harrison,
Biden
yeah.
was in government for over 40 years, just as Joe Boakai.
Look,
Look, yes, yeah, let me tell you what I want to see. I don't know what to expect from these people except for the low-hanging fruit of making appointments. So this is what I want to see. And maybe they should listen and act on this thing. I want to see an executive order on health care in Liberia. For example, can the president issue an executive order on health care that when someone is sick, when that person is taken to the hospital and they don't have money, that person should be treated. Let them set a bill to the Liberian government will pay. Can he issue an executive order on that? That would be something. That would mean that the mayor is yet to rescue people who are sick. Hello? On education, can we get an executive order that no school should increase tuition right now? That low-hanging fruit, can we get it? These people put nothing in place. They have been scrambling in the background for jobs. So let me give another thing that they can do right now. When it comes to the economy, can they now relax tariff on essential things like rice and other things that Liberians need right now so that the prices will not go up? Can he issue an executive order on that? And I want to see the 100-day deliverable tomorrow. Will they deliver on that? Of course not. This plan they call arrest. It is just a literature. Can we see the actionable points? Now, they don't have it. They are still fighting for jobs, Dennis. So don't expect anything tomorrow other than appointments and maybe taking pictures with some people who have come to visit the president. That's all you're going to see tomorrow. Nothing concrete from the government of Liberia. Its own plan put together to rescue us. They don't have it. So don't expect anything other than appointment, taking pictures with other people. That's all you're going to do.
I think they have it. Let me, and I think it was Victor, you mentioned about he didn't meet with health. No, Larry, you mentioned you didn't meet with healthcare. So Abby Tyler, our health contributor, said he did meet with the nursing school owner.
That's what's his name?
Is that a singular or plural?
No, the nursing school owner who sold fake degrees.
Okay.
That's the one.
Okay.
All right.
But let me
bring in callers here.
Okay.
Let's get at least one caller here from the Bronx. Hello, caller. Your name and where you calling from?
Hello.
Yes, sir. Your name and where you calling from?
Okay, I'm Wonder Freeman.
Go ahead, Mr. Freeman.
And I'm calling from Minnesota, Minneapolis.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, good. So I followed the show, and there was some like economic issue raised and some planning issue raised. I think in Liberia the population they kind of depend on miracle a lot. So there's no plan. I don't see it because what Boakai has paraded as arrest, it doesn't look like any plan to me because a plan will say what is it that you want to do, how you going to do it, when you going to do it, and what will the resources come from.
Exactly.
That looks like a plan. But if you just tell me agriculture, roads, and tourism without telling me how, when, and where it's going to happen, that's a problem. Like for now, he's taking power. Government work by way of regulations and statute. So there will be urgent, like one of your panelists talked about, executive orders. Some of them will have to be regulations, and some of them will have to be statute. We don't know what is he going to do within the next several days, several months. None of that is laid out. So, but when people, I see them, rejoicing. Somebody wonder what are they rejoicing about because there is just no plan. And that's how the CDC, for example, feel. Because they spent 12 years in opposition, and when they took power, they have absolutely no plan in terms of where to take the country. And I see the same thing repeating. So for me, I'm kind of, not very hopeful, but we encourage the UP, they have to come up with a clear-cut roadmap as to where they want to take the country. I think what they are paraded as arrest is inadequate. It doesn't explain what they will do, when they will do it, how they will get the resources, and those kinds of things. So it's deficient.
Right, but Mr. Freeman, that's typical of plans that people put out, during the campaign, right? You don't want to put everything out there of milestones and when you will do it, where the money will come from. So based on what we see on the website, I think it's enough. We want to see a more detailed one, like Weah was in office before they came up with a detailed PAPD. So I think I can cut him some slack right there.
No, I have my doubts there because the detailed one would be what you maybe a detailed budget or what have you, but the roadmap is important. And what I see in the arrest is just a slogan. It is not any plan that people can look up to and say, okay, for example, what statute is he putting before the legislature within the next 90 days? Or what, executive order is he going to exert within the next 90 days? We don't know. So those are the issues. You have to say it before maybe we go down to the detail, because I know they will have an annual budget and they will spell it out. But at a minimum, you have to know where you're going to raise money from. And the amount of free money that was available during the first UP regime is no longer going to be available because of a whole host of global issues. So they really have to think about how they are going to fund what they will fund, because there is no free money coming internationally, at least not in the short term.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. We will take a 40 seconds break. When we come back, I want to get your closing.
Our country, sweet Mandela, our country, that God gave all this country. Fellow Labyrinth, that God gave all this country. We are calling on everyone here to come and pray for this country, Labyrinth, God gave all this country.
God gave us this country, and that's why we are talking about it, and we'll keep talking about it and hold our leaders accountable. Gentlemen, I think we had a good show tonight. I want to get your closing comment, but before that, there's a Liberian all the way in East Africa just wrote me. He said, "Hi, Mr. Jai. Your panelists and callers are more pessimistic about the new administration than otherwise. It is just my opinion." Larry, why are you pessimistic?
Because historically, if you look at the data going all the way back, look, listen, over the past, since 1946, I believe Liberia has received over $17 billion just from the US, not counting the OECD countries. And look where the country is today. GDP per capita is still around $700. While countries like Singapore, Taiwan, Hong Kong, the Three Tigers, highly corrupt countries have come and passed us. Other countries like Botswana, that is 57 years old, their GDP per capita is way higher than Liberia. Seychelles, Gabon, all these countries are doing well. Kenya, Rwanda, that had civil war, they are doing so much better than Liberia. I am pessimistic because the data shows that we're using the same strategies and we expect to rescue people with strategies that have failed. Not going to work. I'm simply being a realist, not being pessimistic, being more of a realist, right? So here's the deal. To close this up, Dennis.
No, don't close it, because I want to ask Anthony that same question. Anthony, you sound a little harsh on the current administration. This is just day 2, especially when we had what we had yesterday. So, I mean, why are you expecting too much too soon? Mr. Boakai has a history of being very meticulous. He's a wise old man. He doesn't like to be pulled around. He sits, analyzes, and then strikes. So I think it's been Boakai at this moment, and I think we should give him a break and at least give him some time. You sound very harsh.
Then I'm not harsh. I'm just speaking the truth, the way the truth should be spoken. And that's it. And the person they're saying we are being pessimistic, yes, we are. I mean, Larry couldn't have put it right. Mean the Liberian leader, sends Doe to Weah and now to Boakai, who was able to shake tables in a transformative way to move Liberia forward. Liberia budget has now reached $1 billion United States dollars over the past 20 years. Look at your country. To build roads alone in Liberia, I'm not good with numbers, but I would assume you need over maybe $20 billion to build serious roads in Liberia. Look at your nation. Your budget has been hovering around $500 to $400 million. What can $400 million do when you finish paying government employees and you finish buying stationery and other things for government operation? What do you have left? Practically nothing. And the reason we've been where we are is because our leaders have not been able to find alternative sources of raising significant revenue to make the necessary investment in our country. Look at education, for example, computer and technology ruling the world today. Do we have any massive computer literacy program in Liberia? Ellen left no massive computer literacy program in Liberia. There are thousands of Liberian students who don't know what is even computer, let alone to know how to operate it. We don't even have functional libraries in our high schools. So tell me, where will the magic come from? From Boakai? Boakai was with Ellen Johnson Sirleaf when they took over, they roll out their 100 days deliverable. Boakai cannot roll out 100 days deliverable on day 2. What do you expect?
Thank you.
We are telling you the truth, and the truth must be heard with a strong voice, because these politicians and political actors, they are jokers. I repeat, they are jokers, and they are joking in that country. Look at the number of countries that surpass us. We have not been able to grow our budget to $1 billion, a single $1 billion. Over 20 years, we have failed. If that doesn't say it's all, then I don't know what else we're explaining to you. I was hungry in Liberia. I know people who are hungry today. And you are telling me I'm harsh? A child is in West Point right now. During the reading season, the roof is leaking, the home is flooded, and you think that child should continue to endure that? Boakai has been in government. He has enjoyed everything. He has been very comfortable. Many Liberians are uncomfortable. Talk about those Liberians.
Thank you.
All right? You go and intellectualize their conditions. I'm an intellectualize Boakai condition. The last time I saw him, he was in a car worth over 75,000 United States dollars. The last time I checked, his home was being renovated. But that child is still in West Point right now. He doesn't have a good fitting school as we speak. He doesn't even have slippers on. And you want me to be praising George Weah or Boakai and somebody telling me I'm too harsh? Yes, I'm harsh because the conditions are harsh. And these leaders took off to better these people's condition, and they are joking. When you come to power, you don't have a plan on day one. And people behind there fighting for jobs. Continue and see where we go from here. I rest my case.
Thank you. Gabriel, Abuja was not built in one day. So this president is just 2 days old, and we want him to undo, the mess being created over a decade.
So I think I want to echo maybe what Anthony was saying again. If you come in a class yelling in the back that you are the smartest student, and they ask you a question and you can't even answer the question, what do you expect everybody else to think, right? We were all with the campaign was it just ended, right? We talked about the 100-day plan. The platform came out. I took my time and read through it. I think it was about 53 pages. Some of us questioned some of the things that were in there, whether they were intentional. Hey, we rest our case. We give them the benefit of the doubt that they come in on experience. They have supposedly they have so many people they left over from Ellen, some smart people in there. They probably know their way around the state house and things. So we give them that benefit of doubt. So literally meaning that you're coming in with a lot of expectation that you already know your way around things. Let's put this in perspective. Even if you didn't know your way around things, after the announcement of the election up to the inauguration, you had time to vet people. You could have used that time to vet people, right? You could have used that time to. You cannot come in on day 2 and yes, still you only have appointed or 5 people to. that means you didn't even do your due diligence in the back end. Any serious president who thought they were coming in and to become president, you would have had at least 2 people vetted for each cabinet position there, ready to go on day one. Now, we all talk about these things because they set their own expectation and we're just holding their feet to the fire. When it is another thing that we're making up here, they set their own expectation and we're just calling them to what it is, right? You come, you say you're going to do what you're going to do. We're just asking you to do that. Very simple. Even if you can't do that, communicate. The least thing you can do is communicate. This is where we are. This is what's happening, right? And give people the ability to know what is happening, as opposed to, we're just sitting here looking at pictures and interpreting things. So they put that expectation on themselves. We cannot manage that expectation. They need to manage their expectation and meet our expectation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Victor, I think you're a little more measured, right? Or you pessimistic too?
Well, I would say more like tough love as opposed to being pessimistic. And the writer, I mean, the person who wrote from Europe, I don't understand what he means when he say, we're pessimistic on the panel. I really think we're impatient, and I think rightfully so, Dennis. Look, I tell you this, I'm in Monrovia. I have children who live with me, and now their children are in college. You understand me? So my grandkids are in college, and these children have never known a good life. You think they have the time to wait for a president to take a break for 24 hours and do nothing? No, no. So I'm really disappointed. And the thing about it is most of the people around this president are people who were running the streets and making all the noise. Anthony Kessler, Samuel Kofi Wood, Larry Toba. Those are the people who are advising this president today. Where is the plan? So when they say, we are pessimistic or we're impatient, of course we are impatient. We are impatient. A day wasted is a day too long. There's too much to be done. We don't have the luxury of wasting 24 hours.
Yeah.
And there is something they call setting the tune. Our people say you beat the iron when it is hot, right? That's when you shape it up. This president right now, what's he waiting for? 1 week before he comes out to do what? Look, this country we live in, the president makes the policy statement. What happens the following day? You see them at a little car factory or some little small place, but that's where they go to explain what all the big boy they were talking on the podium.
Yep.
That's where they go to explain and they sell what they're trying to do. This president talked about establishing the war crime code, war economic crime code is in the speech. When are they going to begin to talk about it? Today there was a press clipping out about Senator Johnson already expressing reservation. You understand me? So they're missing a golden opportunity here, and we're really urging them not to sleep on it. They shouldn't waste time. Get on with the people's business. There's no time to take breaks and go sit down in the club and drink beer. No, it's not the time yet. No. So pessimistic, I don't care about pessimism. I'm talking about impatience. You understand me? The fierce urgency of now, like Martin Luther said, now they need to get up and get it done. Taking breaks for a whole 24 hours and showing up pictures. Come on, man. They can do better than this.
And I want to always remind people, anytime you try to point at people around the president, I will bring in this Omar.
What Boakai told the money for?
Boakai baby, Boakai get money. Yeah.
Boakai also has his own mind, and he's going to do the best for our country. And let's go. Let's get to a closing, each of you, for 35 seconds.
Yeah.
Let me start with Mr. Carter.
I think everything that needed to be said was, we've said it already. For me, as I said, I'm not really. I don't think we're being too harsh with this administration. They put themselves in this position. I keep saying that they put themselves in this position that they claim the things that they were going to do. We just want them to do what they said they were going to do. Get the ground running, appoint people, have a press secretary or press briefing, whatever you call it, right? And start communicating your policy, your ideas, the things that you're going to. You have your platform. You've spent 6 years in the opposition. right? 12 years as the ruling party, 6 years in the opposition. You should have studied the economy to know what your immediate priority is going to be, what your short-term priority is going to be, and what your long-terms are going to be, right? You
But they
should.
know that, Gabriel. They know
That's what
that.
I'm saying. Now.
They
Let
have it.
let me finish, right?
Okay.
Knowing that, and while knowing that, come in day one or forget the day one or what happened. We okay, mistakes happen. Day two, you're supposed to have the ground running. This is what we're going to do to shift things. These are the things we're doing to impact the economy from the short term standpoint, and this is what we're going to do to impact the economy from the long term. I mean, immediate and then long term, right? Not we have not heard a thing yet. And this is a party that's been in power for 12 years and they've been in opposition. So they should have known their way around what they needed to be, what needs to be done. But here we are. And as I said, in as much that we're being urgent, we want them to communicate, right? Let's give them maybe to the end of the week and see what happens. Maybe they
Thank
said
you.
their excuse could be the president is still recovering from what happened on the first days. So let's give them a little bit of time, but they need to get things done as soon as possible. And
Thank you. Let's keep it to 1 minute. Mr. Sia, you're closing.
Then it's been a good conversation, and then we need to be serious. Feeling sorry for politicians, justifying for them, making excuses for them, has been a major problem for us. These people have a responsibility. We implore them, and we need to push them to do their work. They will never ever hold themselves accountable. We, the people, must push them. If they see that we are impatient and we're not going to take nonsense from them and lazy them from them, maybe they will do better. I mean, for this administration that was in power for 12 years and know all the people, you can think about, to have just 5 persons appointed, it's laughable. If you look at Robert Monsiokpade, he has been a Boakai guy from day one. 2017, he was with Boakai. He stood behind Boakai when Boakai gave that gracious concession speech. He worked at the Ministry of Information. He was deputy minister there. He ran Boakai campaign. He was with Boakai. He stayed with Boakai. What is taking Boakai so long to appoint him to be Minister of Information? That alone is also a difficult decision for Boakai. And he's ready for prime time. This team is not ready. Let them get ready. We don't have time. You come on rescue operation, start on day one. And they are not starting. I rest my case.
Thank you. Mr. Nabi.
Yeah, this may sound like a broken record, but I really have to agree with Mr. C. They don't have the luxury of taking a break right now. Look, just like I believe Gabriel said, the UP was in government for 12 years, then they were in opposition for 18 years in total. They understand governance. They know what needs to be done. They know all the little corners, they know everything. What is taking them so long? I don't really understand it. And I was telling myself, you know what, maybe they're exercising caution over what? So yes, I will close by urging my friends who are advising the president, this is it. The opportunity they've been fighting for all these years to help do something for our people and change our people's lives. This is the opportunity. How is it now that they are not rising to the occasion? It really, I hope this was a slip up, and like we're all hoping tomorrow they will come back, bounce back here and begin to energize the stage. But right now, the stage is dead. They've gone to sleep. They're happy, they won and they're celebrating. No. So they need to get up and get on with the people's business. Thank you.
Thank you. Professor Larry, you got a last word.
Yeah, so I would say 3 things real quick. And this is why when you look at the research from Asimoglu and Robinson, they talk about why nations failed, right? When you take a look at the people who names to be nominated, try to see if you would recognize or you would see any names of people who are not part of the inner circle, because more than likely they will end up naming friends, families, people from the same party, people from the same tribe. And that in of itself doesn't lead to nation building. Not only nation building, doesn't lead to growth and development. They tend to select the same people. The second thing I would say would piggyback on what Anthony Sear said, and this is something that we talk about on the marketplace with Gabriel all the time. Politicians will come in with all these big, hairy ideas, telling you how they can even send the first Liberian up to space. But if you ask them, how are you going to pay for that? They would be short on that. President Boakai was asked the same question of VOA. The arrest program, how will you pay for that? He ducked the question. They don't have the strategy or the plan in terms of how to pay for some of these ideas they have. This is why the pro-poor agenda failed. They keep using the same strategy, right? They're not going to get to $1 billion in terms of the budget if you don't create jobs and have people paying taxes and have companies paying taxes and revenue to grow your budget. They are very short in terms of how to raise the funds to pay for the project. We are a rentier nation. We rent our mountains to foreign companies. We rent our ocean. We rent our trees. We rent everything in the country. That whole rentier status or strategy, it's never worked. I haven't seen it work anywhere. What actually works is what people, your viewers are being mentioning. What has been working is you have to develop the education sector. You have to develop the healthcare sector. You have to be able to raise capital from the capital market, go out there and borrow money, similar to what Ghana did. They went to the international market and borrow money. So we're seeing, and it's kind of sad because you're seeing the same strategy, people are using the same thing. This is what Damisa Moya, the economist from Goldman Sachs, said. People like Liberia, countries like Liberia that relies on renting, they also rely heavily on foreign aid. Foreign aid is not going to rescue us. Take a look at the 2024 preliminary budget they put out there. It's all about foreign aid and grants and all these nonsense that never, ever, ever work. So to answer that point, they should have hit the ground running, right? We shouldn't have infant mortality as high as it is in Liberia with all the resources. Mothers shouldn't be losing their lives for giving birth. The maternal mortality rate shouldn't be so high. Look at the schools, the picture that Anthony showed. It's deplorable, it's sick. If you tell government officials you're going to use the same healthcare system that you are responsible for and not fly out of the country, watch how the healthcare system improve. Let them send their children to the same school that they are managing in the country. Watch how the education system improve. The fact that they're making all this money and able to fly overseas for healthcare and send their children overseas for education, they don't give a damn about what's happening to the poor people. So I want to see things change. Let's see the names going to come out. People are going to hit the ground running. You're going to tell us how you're going to raise money. But I'm also looking forward to the annual message. So let's see the people you're going to put in these places, and let's see the annual message, and then we will know how serious this new government is going to be to change the lives of the people and rescue them.
Thank you, Larry, and thank you, gentlemen, for tonight. I want to thank our viewers for watching. Even those who will watch later, continue to follow us. Facebook has had a foot on our throat for a long time, for almost a year. So always share the show, invite someone, and be a testimony that this is by far one of the best in the country since 1847. On that note, we're going to close with our song that says, "We are all Liberians." Have a good night, and God bless you.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people.